What's a job field that has mostly terrible people? Story 1. That meanie from high school that slides in your DMs on Instagram with the "Hey girly," trying to sell you her fit tee. Story 2. Debt collectors. Anyone who works that job for an extended period of time is a piece of garbage. It involves them calling a person's place of work, friends, and family to ask about the debt to humiliate them into paying. Answer. For a year, I worked in loan sales, predatory max interest loans, targeting people who can't get loans anywhere else. Basically, a step up from payday loans. And about 75 of my job was collecting, skip tracing, digging through their social media, calling family members, etc. They wanted me to take over my own branch and the money would have been great. I just could not do it. Story 3. Payday loan shops. Also evangelical megachurches and any self-described Christian lifestyle brands, media, businesses, etc. Smaller community churches can be just as regressive and problematic, but they often still do things like donation charity shops, soup kitchens, volunteering, etc. Story 4. I think, while not all people in human resources are terrible, the field does attract the kind of people who are looking to lord it over others. Busybodies, gossips, insecure people who let a little bit of power go to their heads. Answer. As someone who worked in HR, I absolutely agree. The recruiters are the used car salesman of the industry, absolute manipulators who act like they're everyone's friend. Payroll dislike anyone who makes more than them. There's always at least one who's a massive gossip. It was an utter embarrassment to work with people like that. I spent years of my life improving my skills, getting multiple degrees in areas related to HR. I decided to go into an adjacent field because I couldn't stand it. Story 5. Healthcare. It's like going back to junior high with the mean girls trying to get you fired, lying about you, and talking behind your back. Story 6. Service industry management. I've never met a bar or restaurant manager who wasn't a total piece of shoot. Story 7. Politics, lies, dishonesty, and stabbing people in the back is routine. Entertainment industry. Far too many stories of rich people with too much power, subjecting young and weak individuals at the bottom of the totem pole to intimacy harassment and promising success based on lies and promises that they don't intend to keep. Used car sales and pyramid, MLM sales. Sales is a necessary evil, but certain areas of sales are bad. Story 8. Nursing and psychiatry roles tend to be filled by psychopaths fairly often. Any vulnerable sector will lure those types in. Story 9. Models. Having done some acting courses, the most intolerable students in the class were wannabe actors who were also models. They all acted irritated having to engage with non-model peasants. Ironically, that was probably the only acting they did that was convincing. Was a tad mind-blowing, the arrogance they possessed despite the fact that most of them were incredibly unintelligent and uninteresting, combined with their huge ego and narcissistic tendencies. I just never understood why anyone would be attracted to someone from that industry when the only thing they have going for them is looks. How boring. I don't know. Good luck to them, I suppose. I'm actually glad I'm not that good looking. Working on your personality and character is a good thing. Plus, I would dislike to have a job surrounded by gorgeous people who are all likely to be fake, nasty, and or self-absorbed. I can understand why so many Hollywood celebrities end up with substances and adult beverage issues. as it doesn't sound like there are many wholesome and genuine people in that world to make friends with. How lonely. Story 10. I used to work in meteorology, and while I met some good people in the field, I met a lot of condescending assholes. That's a big reason why I no longer work in that field. It was taking a huge toll on my mental health. Story 11. Sales. They're trained to sell products and themselves. In turn, they do that in their private life too. Cannot be trusted. Story 12. Police, firefighters, military, churches. Environments with a dough and a six-tell on your colleagues type of environment, where they are forced to turn a blind eye because of unequal power dynamics. Story 13. Finance, politics, advertising, marketing, sales, influencer. It's endless, really. But the fields where people are trying to manipulate others for their own or company's benefit. Story 14. Medical, especially nursing. It's like going back to high school. Co-workers having cliques, and if you're not in the cool kids club, you are fudge. People will actively and nefariously sabotage your work, going behind your back to mess things up and set you up to fail. They will tell you deliberately false info, train new staff deliberately to do things wrong, and then lie and say they trained them otherwise, just to get the power kick of making someone else feel horrible and probably getting them fired. They will make up stories, falsify documents, tattle to the boss's boss about minute, inconsequential mistakes, and constantly watch anyone for any signs of weakness, so they can exploit it. They will refuse to answer questions or make people feel stupid for even asking. They will form groups that will all report the same false thing about one person they have targeted. They will be extremely racist, bigoted, and judgmental for everyone that's not just like them. Have a kid but no spouse. Keep your legs closed. You are obviously an unfit parent. Have a kid and a spouse. What are you even doing working, neglecting your family for your own selfish reasons? Have to take time off. For your family. Probably just hungover or something. Don't let outside problems affect work. Don't take time off if kid is sick. That poor baby just wants his mommy, but she's so selfish, she doesn't care. Speak to a co-worker of the opposite intimacy. Slut trying to sleep her way to the top. Don't socialize with other co-workers. Stuck-up meanie thinks she's too good for everyone. It never ends. Story 15. The late teens and 20-somethings coaching scammers you see on Instagram. They claim to be multi-millionaires or on six figures, and yet they're just kids. Usually sales, client acquisition, affiliate marketing, or forex day trading. The advice they give is always generic and crap, yet people seem to fall for it and lap it up like competent utter fools. Goodness knows how many of them pay for the courses or whatever. Always remember that if they were so wealthy, they wouldn't be on Insta trying to sell whatever it is they're selling. They're grifting scammers who need the money, your money. Story 16. Real estate developer OMG. Firsthand saw how messed up they are. One tried to sell irradiated land to home builders without disclosing that facts. Other denied historic mining activity on a property, despite historical evidences saying otherwise. It was full of cyanide. My favorite was the one that didn't know that there were buried unexploded ordnance despite having bought it from the goat. Story 17. Corrections. Not most COs, but a lot of them are narcissistic predators, especially in my experience as a former CO who worked in 2 different maximum security state prisons. Story 18. I love that Reddit always vilifies police officers, and these threads pop up all the time and never list police at the top. Story 19. Working at adult stores. The co-workers are either super cool or major creeps and potentially intimacy predators, and there is no in-between. Doesn't matter the person's gender either. Story 20. Nurses. I have worked with many, many evil nurses. One force-fed an elderly lady who specifically said that she didn't want breast and had zero history of refusing meals. She just wanted tea. The nurse force-fed her until she puked, stood up and demanded that someone else clean the lady up. That is just one example. I have many. Story 21. Sales. Nursing home-assisted living managers. As far as I can tell, this also extends to other sorts of residential health care, rehab, mental health facilities, etc. Story 22. Politicians. 99 terrible people. I have to believe there is at least one decent person, but it's unlikely. Story 23. Marketing. I've been working in the industry for more than a decade, have had roles all around the world, and the overwhelming majority of people I've worked with have been immature, insecure, conceited, irascible, narcissistic, antagonistic, and, above all, pathologically self-absorbed, an absolute nightmare to be around. Story 24. Scrolled pretty far and didn't see tow truck driver. At least where I live, they are straight up dickhead vultures. Story 25. Realty. Go ahead and downvote me. They're used car salesmen, but with bigger and more complicated scams. Little oversight. They hide problems and help sellers hide problems. They promise but won't put promises to paper. They're the ones driving up house sales to the stratosphere. They create fake bidding wars. And unlike a car, which you're only stuck with for only a few years, you're stuck with a house's problems for at least a decade. And those problems are profoundly more expensive than a car's. 9 out of 10 are scammers. Story 26. Politics, religion, organized crime, funeral services, insurance sales, finance. Though there's a sound argument to be made that those are all the same thing. Story 27. After reading a lot of the comments, I think the jobs themselves can suck the goodness from people. No kid says, when I grow up I want to make people miserable. No kid says, when I grow up, I want to deny insurance claims. No kid says, when I grow up, I want to steal someone's life savings. No kid grows up saying, I'm going to sell a passing trap card to a single parent. No kid grows up saying, I'm going to be a BP executive and cover up one of their greatest environmental disasters of all time. I worked in the technical side of television. I saw a lot of people who were decent become fearful, nasty, ultra-stressed monsters, myself included. Yes, most scammers are corrupt pieces of sheesh, but there are some that are forced into it. It attracts people who warp their moral compass to survive or have a lifestyle they dream of. Good people can rationalize doing heinous things for the sake of making a living. Late-stage capitalism folks. Bezos essentially rents the entire city of Venice for his wedding. So, is the Amazon customer service agent on the phone your problem? Or is it the jerk who, when he owned the company, screamed at his employee, who in turn screamed at their employees, and so on? The real problem is the wealth hoarders. They are the terrible ones, so I would say, if you want to make a gross generalization, wealth accumulation and its stockbroker speculator enablers attract the worst of the worst. I'm not being Pollyanna. I'm not trying to have empathy. I'm just reporting what I have seen. The venom should be directed at the one who now control 80 of the world's resources. Story 28. Pilots, charter or commercial, no difference. The most arrogant, selfish, annoying, narcissistic, insufferable temper tantrum individuals. Story 29. Fatma, you meet some of the most beautiful souls. Then there's the techs who strangle a Yorkie, 'cause it makes them feel big. Story 30. The worst are business executives. It's been said that to be a successful executive, you have to be a sociopath to be effective. Imagine laying off thousands of people without any guilt. They only care about money. Story 31. Law enforcement. The good cops get fired for complaining about rogue and dangerous cops. The ones that are not dirty and dangerous watch it all happen and are spineless enablers. The rest are insecure bullies that barely graduated the 7th grade. Story 32. Police. The stats on how much DV, adult beverage abuse, and others is staggering. Also, all the other things they do. Story 33. Hairstylists. Before you come for me, I say this because I used to work in salons. The women are awful. Since then, I've had plenty of jobs where I've also worked with mainly women and never experienced anything like the bitchiness I experienced in salons. Story 34. The public-facing attendants who take checked luggage at airports. I don't know why, but these are the most despicable witches I have encountered on multiple occasions, despite given every politeness. I purposely go out of my way to not check luggage because of this. Story 35. Architecture. Everyone thinks they are a designer, but the job is to produce working documents for construction, so not one single person will do their fudge job. Story 36. Fast food manager, ESP, Subway, and McDonald's. I've never dealt with a competent manager in fast food. They're just the only ones who will show up reliably. Story 37. Photography. I've worked with manned models offers me intimacy in exchange of work for her. Of G-girl I need to eat too, then get mad because I am not interested. Story 38. Film and TV producers. Interestingly, the biggest assholes I've worked for all have a self-proclaimed no assholes policy at their companies. Story 39. Construction guy here. In no particular order. Roofers, drywallers, painters. Not that there aren't good companies out there in those trades, especially when you're in high-end homes. But overall, those jobs suck and require a certain type of person to get the job done. Story 40. Elementary school principals, at least in the gigantic district I taught in, for 26 years. Over that many years, I worked under many, many principals. When I began teaching in the mid-90s, there were a few who were complete assholes, but most were decent. Some were actually very fair and on your side, and some you could even go to for assistance without fear of being written up. Now, most principals run schools with free rein, think they are gods, hold grudges over who knows what, seem to enjoy formally writing teachers up even though it causes them extra paperwork, and are massive narcissistic. Bullies in general. It's so weird the power trips they're on by being a school principal. I don't know if it's like this in all school districts. Story 41. I retired from human resources. When I went to meetings of the local, state, and national HR professional groups, I found a majority of mean people. I think after a while, they lose interest in people and become numb to things. I vowed to never fall to that level. I always put the person first and advocated for employees when possible. I was a minority in my management style. Story 42. Defense contracting. Just a sea of overpaid, middle-aged middle management. White dudes who think they're the shoot because they have a security clearance, which is just an in-depth background check. Story 43. Anyone selling products from places like Mary Kay or Herbalife. They may be suckers at the core, but they're suckered in by the idea they can make money from their friends. Story 44. Roughnecks. IDK what it is about dudes who work in the oil fields, but they really are on another level. Story 45. Anything in media. I tell kids who want to be influencers that people in media are vampires who suck your mental health dry to advance themselves. People who matter work in real jobs where they earn real money and do good things every day without fanfare. Story 46. Marketing. Specifically, good marketers. I'm one of them, been one for a very long time, and I am surrounded by others like me, and I know how we all think. We're all professional liars. We're all sharks. We convince people to buy shit they don't want, make the rich richer and the poor poor. I genuinely am embarrassed to say I work in marketing, but I need the money. And of course, as always when the job costs soul, the money is good. Also guys, from a marketer, all of the products we advertise are shoot. The more ads you see, the more shoot the product is. Please don't buy it. Find the store. Brand instead. It's the same shoot, but cheaper. Basically, my clients are jerks who know that it's still cheaper to pay big money in marketing than it is to make a good product. And then they come to me and to people like me, and we lie. For money. Please do not believe us. All the love. Story 47. High-frequency trader, talking from experience because I used to work in that industry for a short time. Story 48. Car salesman. There's a reason that title is an insult when applied to anyone working in any other field. It implies you're a sleazy dirtbag who lies out of both corners of his mouth and sees you as some combination of contemptible prey and complete idiot. Story 49. Cell phone sales, or any commission-based sale. They don't care about you. They will upsell you as far as you let them. Story 50. Any position where someone has to convince someone else to part with their hard-earned money, e.g. sales, real estate, debt collectors, etc. Any role where someone has authority over someone else, e.g. law enforcement, prison guard, ICE, human resources, management, etc. Any role where someone has the elite skills necessary to save lives, e.g. surgeon, nurses, etc. Any role where someone has to criticize someone's physical appearance, e.g. fitness. These types of roles don't necessarily make everyone in them a horrible person. It's just that a lot of horrible people are attracted to these roles. For example, a truly good person who goes into law enforcement will probably be a good cop, but it attracts a lot of bullies. Story 51. Surgeons. I say this as someone who wants to be one. You need the perfect mix of insanity, egomania, to even think you'll make it there. And the prestige of the career only further attracts those people. The money only adds to it, as does the reaction when you tell others what you do. I'd say the douchebaggery of a surgeon is 40 learned from the pressure and abuse of academia training, 20 internal ego, 10 how others treat them, and maybe 30 totally justified. Story 52. That dude at the gate of the ultra-low-cost airlines who tell you your carry-on bag is too big and that you have to pay $45 to check it. She just has to be in dickhead to hundreds of people every day. I don't actually know anyone who has that job, but I just don't think you can be a nice person and do that every minute of your working life. Story 53. Timeshare sales. I worked as a timeshare salesperson for a while, and while there are some great people, there are a ton of low lives. Story 54. Prison guards. Mark Twain wrote, paraphrasing this, about 130 years ago, if you want to see the true scum of the earth, go down to your local jail and watch the changing of the guard. Not much has changed. Story 55. Workers in care homes for old people. Imagine if your grandmother has a fall and she's left there for hours. Or she soils herself and she's left for hours. Or she's left with cold food in front of her and no one has helped her to eat, even when they were supposed to. And when she's clearly ill and no one has called a doctor until you notice it and kick up a fuss. And you ask for help, and they roll their eyes and sigh and act like you're the problem. And you see them laughing and joking amongst each other instead of working. Story 56. The hotel industry. I worked in several 4-star hotels. Unfortunately, I experienced a lot of intimacy harassment, unmotivated coworkers, constant gossip and backstabbing. It was a toxic work environment. Story 57. Fracking. Not because of what they do. They're just all grade A assholes, especially the frack sand miners. Story 58. Politics. Many are sociopaths. Some initially set out to do good, but eventually are corrupted by their seniors and must fall in line, voting this way and that, regardless of their original ideologies, sacrificing morals just to get re-elected. It's a power struggle at the top, and those who play the game best reap the rewards. Story 59. I've been a dishwasher, a line cook, a teacher, a salesman, a realtor, a social worker, and a policeman, all for years at a time. Each profession had individuals that I would not wish my son to grow up and be like. But each profession also introduced me to some of the most stand-up people I know. Story 60. Nursing. I've met too many immature, inconsiderate drama queens in nursing to have any respect for the industry. Story 61. Nursing, specifically in nursing home assisted living. I worked in the dining rooms, but those nurses did not care enough. Story 62. I'm sure there are good people in HR somewhere, but I haven't met one yet. I thought becoming a manager and working with HR would change my perspective, and it has, but for the opposite reasons. I've only met vindictive narcissists who love to gossip. Story 63. Definitely MLMs. A lot of them don't know they are terrible people, but they are terrible fucking people, especially those at the top of the pyramid. Story 64. Statistically, over 15 of all child abusers come from the church, preachers, priests, Sunday school teachers. So I will go with that. Story 65. Property land developers. In my career, I've had the opportunity to work with many different types of industry, and business and developers are the absolute worst. They cheat, lie, they bankrupt each little LLC, and leave everyone who helped them become successful holding the bag. I know not all developers are bad people, but there is definitely a high ratio of bad actors. Story 66. Real estate agents, money managers, insurance salespeople. I won't say they're inherently bad people, but they must play one to do their job well. Story 67. Executive business leadership. I'm convinced that each layer up the management chain, you go the further you get from humanity. The whole process of forcefully distancing yourself from the people below you, minimizing your empathy for them, for the inevitable moment that you have to get rid of them, and the demand to keep so many secrets, means that only certain types of people can be successful at that level. Likewise, for lifelong politicians. Anyone who wants to stay in that job for their entire life is either a saint or has to build calluses so thick that you can't find their heart with an industrial drill. Story 68. Literally all fields that have salespeople that are in any way on commission. Cars, real estate, religion, furniture, name it. If it's commission sales, there's a good chance a vast majorities of people there are the fudge worst. Story 69. Senator, member of Congress, police officer, border patrol officer, dentist, Kitsap County court clerk, IYKBYK. Story 70. Sales between being a car salesman, a telemarketing salesman, and a door-to-door salesman. I've met the worst people. Money and making the deal is everything to them. Don't matter if they can't afford it. Don't matter if they need it. Don't matter if they don't understand what they're getting into. These guys just want to make their commission and move on. That's why I never lasted in sales, so's I had a conscience. Story 71. Debt collectors for student loans, cops, IRS tax lawyers, defense contractors, corporate lobbyists, career politicians, mega church pastors,